yeah, all power to him. Is
And the only downside for me for Saints was Louis McCarthy just not shutting up at the ref and in general. But I know he never does. But it was just like, give it a rest,
it,
especially in the second half when they were good. 20 points. It was like, just shut up.
that I didn't pick up too much on that. I don't know if it's at the ref or just him not shutting up. That's the thing with LMS. You kind of think he just talks for talking's sake, which I know something about. I'm sure the listeners will say.
But there was one bit where he was mouthing off at the ref, and it was like, oh, you just don't need, just move on. Come on.
Did anything get called up for that
No,
at all?
the child did turn round to him and just gave him a look, which did shut him up, to be fair. But it was just like, for God's sake, Louis, just play your rugby and move on.
Yeah.
Anyway,
And we will move on to from another good solid win for the Saints, and we will talk about a game that we'll know the least about, I'm sure, of all these games. Catalan 56, Whitehaven 10. It was only 24-10 at half time, and at one point it was 12 points to 10 to the home side Dragons in front of 2,533. The referee was Matt Rossley. I've never heard his name, seen his name. Has he
I
played? Has he
know,
done COF games?
yeah, I know Matt Rossley. He's from the London area. Actually, he's
Oh,
Australian,
okay.
and he's based in the London area. But he's been a touch judge and then referee at League One and Championship for the last few years. So he's working his way up. But he's quite good. He's quite a good ref. He's had some interesting moments, but he tends to be quite on the players' wavelength. He tends
Okay.
to be quite decent when I've seen him.
Well, it was a 10-5
So
penalty count, but I don't know what that tells you because I don't know the nature of the game. I'm guessing there were a lot of penalties given to Catalan for Whitehaven just not being at the pace of the game in the second half.
yeah, it wouldn't surprise me. I mean, they did front up because they put Carl Forster put himself at loose forward for this one, so they were obviously going in trying to just make them bully them through the middle, which is probably their main hope there.
Yeah, I mean, Catalan gave a debut to Mikel Goudemond off the bench, and he grabbed a couple of tries in his debut. Jody Broughton got a hat trick, and Jesse Joe Parker scored for Whitehaven. That old chestnut there.
Yeah.
It's a player who has settled in England.
Yes.
But they still went with Vigo at fullback and Lange and Drinkwater in the halves. Now Lange picked up a slight knock. Hopefully that'll mean something for next week. Because I don't want to sit through a game with him at standoff. So you're basically playing with one half back and three centres. But anyway, there you go. Okay, Sunday then, and another game that we don't have much on, but we do have cards to talk about. Back on the cards is
Hey.
Hull KR versus Wigan. It was a derby for us, Tim,
Yeah.
and it finished Wigan 28, Hull KR 10. It was only 10-4 to the Warriors at half time, although from what I've seen, I have watched the game now on Wigan TV. From what I've seen, Wigan should be much further ahead than that in the first half. 3,524. So this one, Chris Kendall was the referee. There was question marks from Sean Wayne about the way the penalty was awarded to Hull KR, even though a serious uppercut was thrown by Danny Tickle. But the first infringement was arguably by John Bateman, although
Sean
actually,
Bateman.
watching the incident, because this is the main incident. Oh, sorry, we've got one fan view, haven't we? Gary Earl at
Yeah.
123_Trish said, great performance from the Robins, and I think the second half until the last 10 minutes really was a gutsy performance by Hull KR. I'm not sure what you think of that.
Yeah, I mean the biggest takeaway for me of this is just adding to the injury tally, which is what we didn't need.
Sounds like Rob Mulhern, who was the best player for Hull KR
Yeah.
in the game.
Knee ligament damage.
That was clear
and
from the radio and then clear from watching it back as well.
Yeah,
six,
and
6 to 8 weeks though they hopefully think on an optimistic prognosis I've read on the on Twitter tonight.
Oh, right, okay, because that's better than Sheens was saying it was out for the season straight after the game in his usual upbeat press conference.
Yeah, well that's luckily not the
to,
case, which is good for him, good for Hull KR, good for Super League because he's been one of the best forwards in the comp. So we'll get him back for the qualifiers or the middle eights, wherever Hull KR may end up.
That'll be the qualifiers. Mossy picked up an ankle injury as well, and James Greenwood got a concussion as well. So that was another chunk of injuries.
I'm not sure if Danny Tickle got sending off sufficient for his punch, because I've not seen an official disciplinary post yet.
I think I saw grade A earlier on.
Yeah.
So that'll be. Is that a notice, or is that a one-match ban because of previous indiscretions?
It depends if he's had a ban in the last 12 months.
Probably hasn't, actually.
Yeah.
He's probably all right, just by virtue of being in and out the sides.
So
he's played for.
So there was a sin bin in as well. So there was 3 cards in total in this game. So we're back on track for card cup round.
Cardapalooza.
And
these cards sponsored by Rob's Toy Shop, where you can get all your cards from.
Exactly. So the first one was for Adam Quinlan ripping the ball out of Sam Tompkins' hand when Sam Tompkins was going to do I want to say a quick 20-metre tap, but it didn't even look like a quick because Hull KR, you're in the sea when you go out the back of the touchline at the open end, and it didn't look like there was even going to be. It looked like most of the Hull KR players, other than Quinlan, had retreated back already, and Tompkins had 40 metres to run to the hash mark in the middle of the 20 to do the tap. So it wasn't even like he was going to stop it being that fast. So it was completely nonsensical from Quinlan to rip the ball out of his hands to delay the quick restart there. And
he's not normally a player who does that sort of. He's not sort of player, but he is normally a more sensible, more level-headed player.
Yeah, but Hull KR got through that period just towards the end of the first half. Wigan bombed a couple of chances. One of them was called for a forward pass, and I've seen way less forward passes. It was flat to me. Now flat isn't allowed in the rule book officially, but usually it's let go, isn't it?
Yeah, it is nowadays, yeah.
I was surprised watching it back because I expected it to be well forward, but it was borderline. But Wigan didn't take... Basically, Wigan, poor execution. They shouldn't have even had a question mark over it, should we? And we didn't take advantage of that period, and we could have been 2 or 3 scores up if we had taken advantage of all our chances in that time. And then came the major talking point right on the stroke of half time, and I think even like the radio comms and stuff were starting to kind of wind down. John Bateman got tackled about 40 metres or so out from Hull KR's line. This happened about 20 in from touch, and Danny Tickle basically pulled his arms out but left his head in, which should have been a penalty for laying on, in my opinion. So that should have been the first offence, but it wasn't deemed the first offence. The first offence was deemed that John Bateman pushed his head away as he was getting up. So it wasn't a punch, or it wasn't anything particularly violent or anything like that, but it was a push to the head. So I can understand the referee pinging him for that. Danny Tickle kind of wafted a hand back towards him to kind of retaliate, and then, because that didn't land, went in with a full blown uppercut that didn't miss. John Bateman was given 10. Danny Tickle tried to apologise to him as he was walking off. Danny Tickle at this point probably thinking, I'm just going to get 10 minutes here. I've probably got away with it here. Then the ref pulls out the red, which was when you see... Have you seen it?
No, I haven't seen it at all.
The incident, it's richly deserved. Because
it doesn't surprise me with Danny Tickle on especially aggravated by John Bateman. I can well imagine. Yeah.
Yeah. And then before all that happened, before the Quinlan and everything, Hull KR had scored a great try in the first half. Make sure you check this one out. Quinlan's try, was Atkins' try.
Atkins' try, yeah.
With a bit of interchange between Quinlan and Tommy Lee, and then back to Atkin, who started it all at dummy half. Really nice play. After Hull had not been able to put a pass into each other's hands, it seemed, without it totally delaying any momentum of their attack. So that was good. Then in the second half, Wigan kind of just rolled through it. Sean O'Loughlin missed most of the game. Injured, he never came back on. Wigan obviously had the extra man. Tony Clubb sealed it with a dive over from dummy half after a big break that the golden edge had made. And then icing on the cake, Tom Davies scored a try. And that was about it.
Yeah, the Marshall try, there's a very good photo of it in the League Express. It did look particularly spectacular from the way the photographer got it.
It looks great. it looked like it was in slow motion. He kind of purposefully arch dived over. Really good play from Joel Tompkins to set it up. On the radio, I assumed it was Sam Tompkins because the commentator just said Tompkins. And the nature of the play, if you saw it, would make you think it was Sam Tompkins. But really good heads-up play by Gildart, who jumped into dummy half, I think it was, and Joel Tompkins, who sweeped over to the short side and put Marshall in, who did a big loopy Harbour Bridge jump rather than a Harbour Bridge pass. But yeah, some nice tries from both sides, really, but also not loads to write home about. The final game does have stuff. We're going to spend plenty on this one, I suppose. It was Toronto 10, Warrington 66, after it being 12-10 to the wire only at half-time, and that was on the brink of half-time that it went to that scoreline. They were behind, or at best, they were behind for all but a couple of minutes there, or a couple of seconds. 6,500, best attended game of the round, so that shows the Toronto appeal to some extent, as well as a bigger Super League club being at home.
Wire on a Sunday, yeah.
6,507 in the sunshine. Ben Failer was as busy as anyone in this game. It takes our card count.
I think he was probably my man of the match, if I'm honest.
It takes our card count for the round. If I'm not mistaken, there was 7. Then there was 2 yellow cards, weren't there? So that's 9. Then there was 3 in the Wigan Hull KR game. That takes it to 12. And in this game, there was 4.
Let's have a look. I can check the
4 cards, weren't there? 16 cards for the round.
Liam Kay, Josh McCrone, Darcy Lussig, and Dixon. Yeah.
Andrew Dixon with the sending off. Okay, so let's do the fan reviews first. And do you want to start with the first one? I'm sure we have plenty again on this.
So Yorkshire Fox, I won't read his hashtag out, but it said shambles, smiley emoji, muscle emoji, and then I'm not sure, just a square box.
It's a rugby
I don't know
ball on mine. So
right, so there we go.
Yeah. Why don't you say his thing? At me and me shite.
There we go.
It's his dog, I think.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah. But a funny way of saying it.
Right.
Why don't you want to swear at him? Too professional. Too professional.
Exactly. I've been in radio too long.
Genghis Campbell said, I was having a magical Thursday morning in Ontario. I think he means Sunday morning.
It might be that backward that it's 4 days before.
Was having a magical Sunday morning in Ontario until about 38 minutes in when Dixon was red carded. Well and truly pumped due to collective brain explosion in the second half. Now the children are sulking and the wife's Mother Day flowers are in the bin. Hope you're pleased with yourself, Ben Failer.
Brilliant. Tom said that completely forgot about Rowley's shithouse tactics, made a complete joke of the second half. Don't know how much Warrington played into it, but seemed in the ground that they rather restrained themselves. Big respect for Failer as well for asserting his authority.
Brian Davies said, some good open rugby from Toronto in the first half hour, but once Wire showed they weren't going to roll over, the usual grubby Paul Rowley tactics came into play. Poor discipline from his players once again made it impossible for them to win a tough game. Glad they got spanked, gobby little tossers.
Yeah, Shoddy Mungo, Alan Cale said a competitive match ruined by ill discipline. Poor stuff from Toronto, really, as the ref yet again had no choice but issue the cards that he did. The usual Rowley style will not help the Wolfpack if they intend to make a real go of making Super League next year.
Martin Simpson said, great start to the game for the Wolfpack. Quick passing seemed to catch a slow Warrington off guard. Both sides were frustrated with each other, and the K-sim binning only made Toronto look to slow the game down more. Once they lost their cool, there was no way back. I can see why they were angry, but no excuse for how they behaved. Disappointing as they were on a more popular Canadian channel. Yeah, the exposure. Wasted.
Yeah.
And this sums it up, actually. The last one from David.
Yeah. Well, exactly. No excuse for David Lawrenson said, at David Lawrence, Toronto project great, Toronto team shithouses. They lost the goodwill of a few neutrals today, including me.
Yeah, I think we had a few others in from people of a similar vein that didn't put it on the Google form, or were too late for missing match review cut-off. But basically, that is a bit of a summing up that they have lost goodwill, haven't they?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, this isn't the first time that I've seen them deploy these tactics. The game against Oxford, they were